We're going to be doing some live exploratory testing with Raju today. So, Raju, please feel welcomed and tell us a bit about yourself. What are you working on at the moment?
Hi, Sam, and hi, everybody, whoever joined this live streaming. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to Sam to organizing this one, and the kind of works he is doing for the QA community is like wonderful. From my side, like I have overall 9 years of work experience, and I started my testing journey in 2012. uh, uh, and I started as a manual tester, and over the period of the time I got the opportunity to work with some automation tool, some of them like open source, some of them are like uh, 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 licensed one, and I got the chance to like play some roles in functional and the non-functional testing side, and it was pretty much very interesting journey so far. And like got to chance to meet a lot of people who has very good exposure in this industry, and they are doing excellent work setting their ideas for the QA community. And I think Sam is one of them, I think. Yeah, and it is very learning and the inspiring.
Well, thank you for joining like our second episode of Let's Test. I'm hoping to do this as a weekly thing on Sundays. So, where are you based, Raju?
So I am based out of Chennai. It is in India.
Ah, yes. So we are trying to reach a global audience. So hopefully we've got people from both Australia and India, and maybe even the UK time zone, joining in on the live stream today. What's been your favorite project that you've worked on, Raju?
So, so currently I'm working in wood. So basically, they are into the oil and the gas field. So they are making their own product, which is used by I think more than 70 customers, which are into oil and gas business, or some greenfield energy like solar or the wind energy. So one of the project is like a IWIT. So what it does, like the engineers who goes to the site, they takes the reading on the papers and everything. So what this project does, it is like customized based on the different clients, and it helps the site engineer to record a correct data. And even like if the data is deviates, like there is some limits, if it exceeds the limit, that means, because engineering project, one of the thing is like if something goes wrong, like some fire may break out, and like life is always at a risk at that site, so people need to be very careful. So this application helps them, like if they are taking a reading, it tells them like whether the reading is normal reading, or it is exceeding the limit, or it is below the limit. Some action need to be taken. So it is really very interesting, and I feel like, yeah, uh, uh, I think it is one of the very interesting project for me, and I think one of the complex one in terms of. And I feel very uh, 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 lucky to be the part of this project, because contributing to a like which really helps and make a difference
Mm.
in that site. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I've enjoyed when I was studying more engineering is the focus on real world applications. And I think that's why I like mobile testing a little bit more than web based testing because mobile apps are always in our pocket and we can access them at any point. It's just a little bit more, you use a mobile app more often, I feel like, than a lot of websites.
Yeah.
So to summarize, you're working on a tool that helps engineers, petroleum engineers and whatnot, um, do things on.
Yeah, yes. So what happens like nowadays, that is one of the big project, and now for their other new customers, they are building mobile apps and the tab using the Microsoft Dynamics 365 like Power Apps. So it is very easy to build this kind of the tool, which is like very. It does not require a very big tool, sometimes very smaller one, and it is very easy to build using this technology. And the engineers who goes to that site, like who are doing in their shift, they goes to the site around and they captures the reading, and it tells them whether it is exceeding or it is below the limit. And if some action need to be taken, it triggers the alarm at the same time, so action is taken immediately, and it helps a lot to them. It
Okay.
makes their life, yeah. And one of the thing is like it works in both online and the offline, because generally at the engineer site, uh, uh, there is always a problem with the network connectivity. So
Oh yeah, man, like petroleum sites are often like really remote areas or they're in the middle of the ocean. Uh,
yeah,
so remote networking is definitely a consideration when it comes to petroleum sites.
yeah,
So to give people a bit of an agenda today, we're going to go through Amazon Web Services and just have a go through some exploratory testing with that and exploring some testing ideas. I'll be using a little mind map to keep track of some of the testing ideas that we're discussing today, and I will be monitoring the live stream chat. So if I'm looking down, it's because I am trying to check the chat at the moment. And so if any questions do come up, I'll shoot them your way, Raju.
yeah.
And let me. I'm just having a look at that. There we go. View dashboard. Oops, that's not it. There we go. I'm back on the chat. And there is a little bit of background music as well. Hopefully, I've got the sound at a good volume so that you can hear both Raju and I. But if there are any issues with the sound, please let me know by popping something in the chat as well, and I will try to fix it. But I think we've got decent audio through what we're doing at the moment. So if you've been asked to test a website like Amazon.in, where would you like to start, Raju?
So generally what happens, like if I start testing, so first what I do, I just create a like a test strategy document, and because this application need to be like whether it is tested on what are the browsers, what are the platforms, like whether web based or the mobile web based, or it is a like as a mobile native app, or it also gonna support whether it is a desktop based application. So I just start with the that like test strategy document is the starting place for me. There I captures all those things, like on what are the different platform I'm going to test it. Second thing, what kind of testing I'm going to perform, for example functional testing. And in functional testing, like what would be my strategy is going to be do, what testing I'm going to cover through the manual, which tools and technology I'm going to use for automating the test cases, which will helpful for performing the regression. And since Amazon one is like the e-commerce website, the response and sometimes like a lot of offers they provide during some festivals. So a lot of people try to hit the server at that time, and sometimes site may crashes. So load and performance is one of the important aspect. So what are the different kind of load and performance testing, endurance testing, spike testing, or stress testing I'm going to do? Which tools and technology I'm going to do it? Do we so that thing. Another thing is like, since it is going to be available for everybody, and it is very risky, like any hacker can also hack it. So maybe my background is more from the functional side, and I may not be expert in the security, but I generally try to do like what are the those things I can include while performing the testing. For example, like SQL injection, maybe like cross-site scripting, session management. Uh, so those kind of basic things, like whether I can cover while performing the even the functional test. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to do much exploratory testing around security at the moment, simply because I don't control this website, and I think it would be really bad press if we were
Yeah.
testing Amazon and
Correct.
and and discovered a security flaw.
Yeah.
Amazon will probably ask me to take down the live stream, but hey, Twitch is run by Amazon, so I am using Amazon services.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I guess you might also, if you're doing some exploration for a website from a learning point of view, you might have a look through the hierarchy of the page.
Yeah.
So as a first pass, I can see that we've got sections up the top here. We've got a search field, and we've got menus and a cart, and a whole bunch of another menus and tabs.
Yeah.
There seems to be a promotional thing there. And then we've got the for some reason we've defaulted into Amazon Fashion as well.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to buy some shoes, I think these shoes just for you, Raju, bring out the color in your eyes. And then you can always explore each link as well. So if you could also build a bot that could make sure that all of these links were valid links and didn't return a 404.
Yeah.
Um, there's also, we could inspect different elements as well. I'm just going to use my keyboard to go through. If you want to inject at any point too, you're more than welcome to. So if I press tab, the first thing I tab onto is now actually the shop now. I'm actually going to refresh this page and check where the first tab element is when I press tab on a page. So if I tab, I can press enter to go skip to main content.
Yeah.
And where is my tab? Oh, so there we go. We're in Everyday Essentials. And we're going through the same hierarchical order that is seen on the page,
Yeah.
which is generally fairly good from an accessibility point of view. If someone's using some screen reader technology, or they're using keyboard only navigation, they'll often use the tabs. Where are we? To tab-based navigation to explore a website. So you can, I didn't realize you can buy bus tickets in. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
With is there a new Amazon Pay service in India at the?
So yes, so in India also, like for example, when we like add our debit card or the credit card, and through that, when we pay something, sometimes Amazon gives us the payback, and that gets stored in the Amazon balance. And in the next time, if the pay balance is enough, like Amazon also is offering their wallet in India, so we can use that wallet to purchase our you for our next transaction. Yeah.
Cool. I've just had some feedback that we could make Raju's mic a little louder. Um, so I'm just doing some sound adjustments. So I can see in OBS that my microphone is around the -20, -15 section. I'm getting frequently in the yellow section. So Raju, would you just like to say a couple of things?
Okay, so
Yeah. So, and you can see that when you speak, the bar goes up to the yellow section. Can you see that?
okay, so yes.
Cool. That should mean that our audio is roughly the same level. I don't think I could make that much more adjustments otherwise. Um, has that helped? I'm just monitoring the chat.
Yeah.
I think so.
So is my voice is like clear to everybody? Like few people are facing problem, or like
I
everybody is
I think we just had a slight different sound balance between my microphone and your microphone.
okay?
And I think I fixed it now. I'm going to pause the background music as well, just to make sure um, that we're not picking up extra interference now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't realize Amazon Pay existed because I don't think it exists in Australia. So it seems that Amazon are doing some, I guess, well, Amazon is such a large company, they're likely to have experimental features in different countries. So
Yeah.
this is an interesting idea. So um, if we're doing localization, or at least say Amazon is working on a feature that is for and it has a feature flag, and it says that this only works if you go to Amazon.in. So, for example, maybe Amazon Pay only works for the Amazon India site.
Yeah.
Um, how would you? So, if we're going about testing a feature flag, what would be some of the things we could test from if we had more, uh, if we were involved more in the process? So, a feature flag is when something is enabled, but only for either like a country or a demographic or a certain set of IP addresses.
Yep. So I think here I think once the application becomes very stable, I think so this kind of I think test case may be the right candidate for automating it. For example, we know let's say like Amazon Pay is available only for let's say India, UK, and the US, and Amazon is operating let's say in 100 countries. So we can check like in another the remaining 97 countries this feature is not available. So manually doing I think it will be the huge task, and that may not be a very good approach. But yeah, so in this way also we can take a decision identifying the test case, which one we can automate and which one we can automate at a later point of time based on the need.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess from an exploratory point of view, if I just open up a new tab,
Yeah.
actually, we'll open up a new incognito window, and if I go to Amazon dot com dot au, I don't think I'll. So this
Yeah.
should default to Australia, and yeah, so we don't have that. The anything related to Amazon Pay
Yeah.
is no longer on the front page.
So if we go to Amazon, like apart from India, where exactly they are offering this feature, let's say I think they must be offering this one in US or UK.
Probably. So the US one.
Yeah.
Oh,
What is
this is delivered to. So it's still picking up some of my localization, I guess, based off my IP address. Can we search for Amazon Pay? Okay. If we compare that with, we compare that with. So what was the? If we go back, it was on the. It was this type of card.
okay?
And if it was explore more from Amazon Pay, we don't actually get
So
an easy link.
Amazon Pay balance, and here we have a add money, and in this section, okay, so this is the India one. Okay.
Mm. Oh, it's just not. Oh, and so if you go to add money, it prompts you to sign in. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't have an Amazon India account, so I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not signing in. But it's interesting that it's integrated with a couple of different platforms, by the looks of it. I might do a quick Google. Amazon Pay in. What does that say? Nothing much there. Amazon Pay. What countries? So that's from a merchant point of view.
Yeah.
So it's available only for merchants in India. Well, let's see what the feature on Wikipedia. So Amazon Pay is an online payments processing owned by Amazon. It's available. Oh, okay, so it's available in these countries, and so not available in Australia. That's probably why I've never seen this feature before.
Okay.
But yeah, that's an interesting feature. It's like, how do you, what are the testing considerations for enabling a feature for a particular country?
Yeah.
It's like, do you use IP location, or is it based off just the domain name that you visit? So, for example, we're visiting Amazon.in. So yeah, I guess showing this feature is not dependent on the IP location, but it might be more related to the
Domain.
the domain. So if you type in Amazon.India, you get shown this feature, or you can direct to it.
Yeah, even I think like if we open the Amazon UK, so the kind of advertisement and the gadgets and the kind of product it is showing, it is like very local to the United Kingdom rather than the India. And when we open Amazon.in, the kind of product it is showing and some kind of ad it is showing, it is very local to the Indian market.
Mm. Oh, and there's a link to Amazon Pay
Yeah.
on the UK website.
Yeah.
But that's for merchants at the moment. So it's if you're running your own business. Okay, so yeah, if you're also exploring a different website, sometimes if you're exploring the functional thing, you might also want to think about different from different users' perspective.
Yeah.
So I imagine most people are used to interacting with Amazon as a buyer. But also, if you're looking at new features, you can consider what is it like from a seller or a business or a merchant point of view too, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, for example, we have a buyer, we have sellers. We've probably got Amazon admin. Amazon probably have their own way to check things internally as well.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there as a different idea. What other type of users could interact with an Amazon website?
So I think one maybe like the normal users. Another thing is like local sellers who like sells their own product. So again, there are two kind of the seller maybe. One is like they manufacture their own unique product and they register themselves on this kind of platform and they sell the product. And another one is uh, maybe I think especially during the pandemic time, I'm not sure whether Amazon was supporting that kind of thing or not, but there are some other delivery platform, for example Zomato and the Swiggy. They are actually food delivery, they provide the food delivery platform, but the different FMCG giants, they were able to sell their product, and this Zomato and the Swiggy was delivering home, for example, rice or any daily essential food. Generally, what they do, this Zomato and the Swiggy, when we place the food from any restaurant, they get the food from there and deliver it to the individual. But during this pandemic, even they were delivering the this kind of the items. So I'm not sure whether even Amazon was directly in those kind of contract.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's warehouse suppliers as well might be interacting. I don't know how to spare warehouse. Uh, warehouse. Or warehouse. There we go. So big supply chains
Yeah.
who aren't necessarily sellers could be interacting with this. Um, there might have been an instance of government potentially. I don't know if there's any way government interacts with Amazon.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
So let's go back. Well, it looks like, for example, with Amazon Pay, it can integrate with your bills. So that's different providers as well,
Yeah.
um, and different insurance and government agents that sell bus tickets and things. So yeah, there might be things that they'd need to interact with.
Yeah.
Okay. So just what else could we consider? Um, localization is an interesting example.
Yeah, because I think if country changes, then the price of the product also shows the currency of that country rather than. Yeah.
So yeah, under localization, you have language, you also have price, but you also
Uh,
have some things can't be delivered with different local countries and whatnot.
yeah, and maybe the time zone format or something because. Yeah.
Yeah, time zones are hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a little diagram that I use to try and coordinate meetings, and I'm sitting in Australia and Raju's in India, and we're have to be up at the same time to be able to have this type of phone call. Do you speak any of these languages?
Uh, no, actually. So these are uh, I so no, actually I do not have. So I speak the first one, the Hindi.
Hindi?
Yeah, that is my native language, and apart from Hindi, I know this English, but
Yeah.
uh,
I don't think I'm going to change my Amazon to Hindi at the moment. I can't really.
yeah.
But sometimes, so for example, like this has changed, and this gives you an example of the language change, but it hasn't changed the heading and the bottom section.
Yeah.
Um, so at least, and you can just change it down the bottom as well. So if I go down to the bottom, that was this button here. So I don't need to know what the language is.
Yeah.
I can change it back to English. But it's I guess it's interesting that you don't. There are still words in English.
Yeah.
But yeah, trying to explore a website in a foreign language can be uh, a little challenging, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess if we're talking about e-commerce, we might do a little bit more exploration. Um, so if you're doing some e-commerce testing, what type of scenarios would you like to test or could
So I
consider testing?
Yeah, so I think before scenario wise, maybe I think maybe like tearing down the level of testing. For example, let's say it's a unit level. So already, if we need to do some kind of automation, okay, the developers are doing unit testing. But if I have to, because the applications are built in the smaller chunk, so that means once any one user story is ready for testing, so like the single user is going to focus on that user story, and it may be like a kind of unit, I'm going to test it. And down the line, once similar level of user story is built, and it is individually tested, down the line maybe there is some integration. For example, let's say the one of the most traverse I will not say most traverse path, but one of the main traverse path of this e-commerce website is like search for a product, place the order for that product, and then pay the amount, and if address is already there, check out and confirm the order, and if they require any confirmation or something, it gets delivered. So this is like a one of the main crucial path which like, or we can say this is one of the most viable product criteria test scenario. So before reaching that, I think unit level of thing, and uh, 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 integration between the unit and the system test. So apart from that, if this, so I think the scenario should be at a different level. One is like at a unit level. So for example, if I consider this page as a single unit, something is developed, and let's say this page does not have, as of now there is no integration built from or let's say like if on this page I see any item, and if I try to add on the cart, let's say add cart functionality is not available. That means my I am very restricted to test something is available on this screen, and I cannot do end to end something. That means at that moment I need to derive my all the test scenario test cases related to this particular screen. So down the line, once we'll move to the, for example, add to cart, then maybe like, okay, search this item, and once the item is searched, like are we getting the really searched item, or it is giving some other options which does not have to do something related to the search item. And if we are getting the our searched item, then like let's say if I am selecting it, adding to the cart, so that means I there step by step. So if I have to test only this thing, as we were discussing, maybe I think top level of menus, and one of the important functionality is this search, like how exactly this search is going to behave. Because I believe like this, yeah. So whether if I search the item, is it really helping me to narrow down the product what I'm looking, or it is just giving any random items?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we could start with also, if we're going down that path, we could start with a search field.
Yeah.
So technically, I am on the English site, but I've got Bug Magnet as a Chrome extension.
Yeah.
And so this allows me to inject different things. It's got a bunch of lorems, so
Yeah.
that's just placeholder text, and it's got a Hindi option.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what it says. I just know it's a lorem ipsum in Hindi. So I want to see what happens if I search that.
Yeah.
So just placeholder text.
Yeah.
Um, would you like me to make that a bit larger for you?
Able to see, but yeah, I think we can manage.
Because I can always zoom in. There we go.
Oh,
Make that a bit larger.
I'm not sure, like the item what we searched it, is it really giving us that product?
Yeah. Um,
Or in one of the case, I think it is just matching few of the words, and if the word is matching, uh,
and this one has a free Kindle edition.
yeah.
Okay. If you want some 5 romantic poetic novels. Um, so if I go back just to the first one, and that will search, but that's just more likely to pull up, I guess, books with. Is this a grammatical word or a fairly
Ye-
common word?
yeah. So it is written in Hindi, and in English translation is one.
Okay.
So by seeing this one, what the search item it is listing, at least it has it is showing the product in its description. It has that word. But in the previous
Oh
cases,
yeah, there we go.
yeah,
And so it's going to be lots of books with the word one in the title.
yeah. So this time
Yeah.
actually search is like it appeared to be working very closely, but in the previous case, even it was not exactly the same, or it was not partially containing that word. It was giving some random one rather than saying like, okay, uh, uh, it is not matching.
Mm.
So I think when we are providing some kind of sentence in the search, in that case our searched items are looks very vague and the random one.
And there just seems to be at least with this return we've got a couple of books which all have one in the title, but
Yeah,
then we've got random films, and I don't know how these have come back from the with that search, but
yeah. So it is like we have searched with Hindi script, but even if it is showing some searched item, some of the places it is showing the Hindi script, in some of the places it is showing the English name, uh, which is like the exact script written in the English.
yeah. Anyway, um, I guess there's a whole bunch of things you can consider with a search field. I think I'll
Yeah,
go back. That was just a random. So with a search field, if this was our single unit that we were just trying to um, test,
yeah.
I guess there's. We'll pull that one out.
And
Um,
in search also they have given one unique thing. In the left side there is a drop down. So they have the different category, and if we wanted to focus this search on that particular area, so that will help us to narrow down the search.
yes. What would you like to search for?
Yeah, so in this category, I think, let's say if we are looking for some kind of electronics or furniture, uh, then then yeah.
Do you have a piece of furniture that you'd like to buy?
Table.
Table. Okay. Raju wants a table.
Yeah.
Cool.
So now the question is, so we have selected a furniture in the drop down, but what if we are searching some shoes or something? How exactly does it consider it a and condition? Okay, the the drop down value and the search item, if both falls under the same thing, then they will fetch it. Otherwise, they will, okay, it is, we are not able to find it. How exactly?
Okay. So I guess if we do the same search for under software,
Yeah,
I guess Excel, an Excel course. There's
yeah. So
tables.
okay,
uh,
so still okay, so it is trying to match the keyword in that case,
yeah, this is
but still I think it is not that much intelligent enough.
yeah. What happens if you search in music for table? Okay, we've got just some albums.
Yeah,
By a kid's table.
okay.
Okay. But yeah, I guess a search field, just a single search field, does give you a lot of options for exploratory testing,
Yeah,
and just trying to find things. So with this type of search field, there is something called big list of naughty strings. So you could write a little script that
yeah,
pulls in this big list of naughty strings,
yeah.
uh, and some people have written scripts for this. So where are our naughty strings? They are in, no, the big naughty. So they're in JSON and they're in text format as well. So you can copy paste, and I will make this nice and larger. And it's got 742 lines, and all of these strings, if you input them in a input field, they can cause issues. Because some of these are, well, it starts off by using strings that mean stuff in code. So if you input these and you try to render that back to the user. So for example, what JavaScript has not a number, NaN type of error or something.
Yeah.
What? So if we search null in music, it's fine. There's no issues. But yeah, there's you can write a little automation script that'll go through all of these elements and try to input them into text fields. And I think we also get we get some funky strings. So uncommon or common Unicode, misplaced quotations can cause errors. 2-byte characters. What have we got? And
Okay. Japanese style emoticons.
Yep. And emojis, importing emojis. Can I search for an emoji?
Yeah, we'll see. Okay.
Okay.
So they're trying with the emoji. They are trying to show the faces.
Maybe. I've got no idea what they're trying to match on.
Yeah.
So showing all from. Oh, there we go. I got an emoji cushion. That seems like a reasonable result from searching an emoji.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so they do have right to left strings and strings with different. Can I just copy and paste that into, whoops. So the quick brown, okay. Seems that if you search for italic text, you get, brown rice and brown hair color. And so these are the SQL injection type of scripts or that you could try to search in a text field. And a lot of these might cause potentially JavaScript issues.
Yeah.
So this is a really useful list of some quick testing ideas. If you're being asked to test just a random search field.
Yeah. This is actually a really nice one. It has a very big list of strings, and it is very handy actually. I think while testing. Yeah.
I will send that one to you. Ping that one to you.
Yeah.
There's a big list of naughty strings. You can, just search for it. Yeah. And it's just a GitHub repository as well. But yeah, there's also like some strings in here that caused specific issues. I remember back in an earlier version of iOS, if you copied and pasted this string and sent it to someone,
Okay.
it would crash the phone.
Oh.
I mean, like, it's been fixed, but it's and it's the same with this one and this string as well. So if you know someone with a really old iPhone and you maybe send them one of these strings, they might not like you too much. Um, yeah, so input fields are interesting from a testing point of view.
Yeah.
Uh, so we were talking about different levels at some point, and how you would build a test strategy based on maybe unit tests or end-to-end tests.
Yeah.
So what type of considerations would go into end-to-end testing?
Okay. So first, like, uh, 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 maybe like we can use that test pyramid structure, like unit testing, like as much as possible, number of unit tested, and then like our uh, 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 the way we goes up in that pyramid, like the number of test cases start going down. So we need to start focusing much on the unit tested and then middleware and then UI level of tested. So in the end-to-end test cases, if we see the number of test cases may be very low compared to the number of unit tested, but they are the important flows, the whole purpose of that web application or mobile application or whatever. So I think lot of emphasis or lot of focus goes into that one, because generally by the end of the project cycle, we will have all our end-to-end test cases, because in the beginning we may not have all our end test cases, we'll have very few and then finally we'll have our like whatever the number of end-to-end test cases we want to test it before going live. So I think, yeah, so I think it's one of the great strategy when we start testing it, focusing much on the unit test, because down the line we are keep adding lot of items on this, and once one portion of unit test is done and then we are moving into the another unit, then we need to think through and see, we can perform some exploratory test, finding some relation between this unit portion of this component. So say that like if the integration is working fine, the to and fro navigation is working fine, and it is not breaking anything.
Mm. I think a previous session that I did last week, we were doing a lot more browser-based testing. We were doing e-commerce with WordPress. But I guess if you're managing like a shopping cart or a basket, and you do some things like going forward, pressing back, refreshing pages, canceling purchases, putting in funky credit card numbers, a bunch of stuff like that can potentially find issues, particularly going backwards and forwards in the
Yeah.
browser history. It's pretty common for websites not to accommodate that very well.
Yeah, because sometimes what happens, like if especially like the e-commerce website, I think they are very dynamic in nature, and sometimes what happens, like when we create our test cases, so even after lot of planning and a strategy, let's say we have created some kind of test cases, but when we get that actual product to test, at that time we get a lot of ideas, we find some new scenarios, we identify some new set of test data. So I think if we come across that cases, so sometimes what happens while testing, we use it and then we forget about that, but it's better while testing also, if we find some new test cases or the scenarios or the new set of test data, it's always better to include what the test cases or scenario we have already created it, because whenever we see the actual product, we get a better sense and better idea, because by just seeing the user story we may not able to come like all test cases and the test scenarios, still we may missed something.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I find exploratory is great for learning how the product works and behaves. Gives you a bit of a baseline as you're trying to come up with some test ideas and scenarios too.
Yeah.
Uh, is there anything else we should cover? I guess with tools and technology. If someone was asking like how should we automate this website, do you have some ideas on what the tools and technology could be used?
Yeah, so I think because this application requires a multi-browser support, because this is an e-commerce website. this need to be tested on the different version of the same browser. It should be supported on the different operating systems and mobile version. So we need to think through what exactly the tools and technology we use. So generally, like we most of the time people prefer for this kind of thing like Selenium because it supports most of the programming language, most of the browsers, most of the operating systems. And then we can like we choose one of the programming language, and then we can design like which design pattern we are going to use it, the and how exactly the architecture is going to look like. And before I think writing any single line of code, it's always better to to draft the architecture either on similar kind of online tool, for example the way you are using the mind map tool. So same way, whether we can create a mind map tool for the our automation architecture, or in initial version just to think through in the right direction, maybe through the pen and paper. And then we can create like, okay, for example, if I have to design the framework, and let's say nowadays people use it, the page object model. So there are different level of things, because maybe we need to perform the regression sometime in the test environment, sometimes staging environment, and sometime the dev environment. So how exactly we are going to maintain the different environments, so that in runtime we can choose in which environment we are going to perform our regression.
Hmm.
Second thing here, as we were discussing, like which kind of user come to this site, for example the normal user, the sellers, the distributors. So there are a different set of credential to perform different set of actions. So where exactly we are going to maintain our the user rules. Third thing is like so environment and the user is done. Now what are the browser, let's say if we are talking about the web applications. So obviously like any e-commerce site will try to support all the browsers, and even on the older version of the browser. So what are the different browser we are going to support it, like, and since the number of test cases going to be very vast, are we going to support the parallel execution of the test cases, where exactly we are going to maintain it? Are we going to write a test cases using the test ng, or we are going to use like bdd kind of test cases using cucumber or any other tools? So those parameters we need to think through it, and we need to come up with the correct architecture. And let's say like uh, we are using the page object model, and if this is one of the page, so all the web element related to this page we need to maintain in one of the application. There should be like, if we click on any of the item on one of the element on this screen, and it navigates to the another one, so how the handshaking is happening and how we are maintaining into our code, that we need to think through. Another thing, since it is a web application and there may be a lot of many test cases, and UI test cases are always very flaky, so we need to think through like API level of automation, because that is very needed. And and once we reach to the final level of our product, where we are gonna uh, 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 like send this product to the production environment. So by that time we may come up to know like, okay, this many our end-to-end test cases are there. So in that, sometimes what happens, like only depending separate UI test, separate API test may not work. We need to integrate a API and the UI at least for the end-to-end test cases. Okay, first like uh, maybe like there is already some data, so clean up those data, set up the fresh data, and with those data perform some test and then verify it. So those kind of things we need to think through.
Cool. I actually think we're close to time.
Yeah.
Uh, it's we didn't do a huge amount of exploring Amazon. We did explore the search field and explored some features different from for localization. But we also discussed like how we would go about building out a potential automation test strategy for this type of e-commerce website. And if I zoom out of our mind map, we did actually discuss quite a few different things. We didn't really cover too much on security testing, but we've discussed like all the different browsers that you might want to support as well. How some of these feature flags might work, so how a feature might be enabled for one country and not enabled for another. We also discussed all the different users who might try and use this platform, and I think went through what unit testing or integration or functional or end-to-end testing might be. We also did some hands-on exploratory testing, just a little bit with this one. So do you have anything, a key takeaway from this session, Raju?
So I think one of the key takeaway, like this is a nice, I think, nice platform where like people come together, they perform the live pair testing, they discuss, because testing the item is not very important. Like I think thought process, how the people are thinking, coming up with the approach, how exactly they will plan their test, like. What are the things to consider, what are the things not to consider, and different ideas. I think that is one of the takeaway. Like it's, I think, learning platform. And when we see, even when I saw the last videos and all, so I think nice platform to come to know the people who are already doing wonderful job in this uh, as a QA, and what they're doing it, and learning from each and everybody's experience.
Hmm. Well, thanks for watching the live stream and participating, Raju. If you have any colleagues or friends, or if anyone else would like to participate, feel free to reach out and suggest anything that we can do exploratory testing. If we can share it on, screen share it through some sort of desktop, it's easy enough to test. We should
Yeah.
be able to test a whole variety of things and explore different ways of approaching testing. And I'm looking forward to running these on a weekly basis. So hopefully, see you sometime next week.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank